chairman of the Conneaut Tree Commission, and today we are in Malek Park in the Dorothy Shumake Arboretum. The Tree Commission took responsibility for developing the Arboretum in 1996, and our main goal at the time was to build an educational facility, plant trees that people could learn by looking at them and reading the name tags and all that kind of thing. Then a few years later, maybe 10 years, I realized we could do a lot more than that and decided that we would landscape this 30-acre park that Edward Malek donated to the city. Arboretum is a botanical garden that focuses on trees and woody plants. We are now making this park more of a botanical garden in the sense that we're featuring trees, shrubs, herbaceous perennials, bulbs, flowers. Most of what is here is all of that. A few annuals, if I see something that catches my eye, I think would look pretty here. So we're trying to make it an enjoyable educational park. I have a master's degree in ornamental horticulture, so this is right up my alley, and trying to focus on utilizing plant material that the average person has perhaps not become familiar with. And I'm trying to use this in a very informal landscape design so that the end result is grassy walkways meandering through various mulched beds. And we encourage people to walk on the grass. You don't have to stay on the pathway. The funding for the development of the park, the city gives the Tree Commission a little bit of money, but nowhere near what is needed to really develop the park like we are. A lot of the money that we are using to develop Malek Park, the Arboretum, comes from donations for memorial plantings. In other words, or $100 for a tree, or $50 for a shrub, you can plant a living memorial. This plant is alive. Some of the trees, trees are amongst the oldest living entities in the world, the universe. Mm-hmm. There are trees, Pinus aristata, for instance. It's a pine tree. It's over 5,000 years old. I would encourage you, if you have an individual, if you lost a loved one, if you have a society or a club or a group that you want to honor, buy a plant. Bert Drennan got a plant for his graduating class a year or two ago, and just a way of having something to say, yes, we were here, you know. All you have to do is write the check to the Conneaut Arboretum Fund and take it to the finance department of City Hall, the income tax office, and it'll go into the Conneaut Arboretum Fund, and I will use that money then to buy new plants. This is the variegated sweet gum that I mentioned. As you see, the foliage here is a light yellow and dark green. Stays this way the whole season. It's too early to know whether or not this thing is going to have the spiny little fruit, but I hope not. It's a beautiful new introduction to the plants that are available to the trade. There's a saying in the nursery industry, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The next best time is today. Mm-hmm. So it gives the plant a chance to grow. We have beech trees here, for instance, that gosh, they're going to take decades to come into their glory, see? But here we are, the 1st of July, and here are plants that are still in flower, shrubs. Down here we have a little spirea. Back over here is something I'm sure most people are not aware of. It is a swamp azalea. Now most azaleas and rhododendrons detest wet feet. They don't like too much water. They can't live in that. Here is an azalea in flower, the 1st of July. It's called Pink Mist Swamp Azalea. That is flowering at a time of year when most everything else is already finished. Everybody knows this past winter was brutal. It was hard on people, it was hard on plants. We lost plants in the Arboretum as well as around town that I would consider to be ironclads that could survive most any winter. But we lost damaged plants were like boxwood, certain rhododendrons, viburnums, just also magnolias. I mean, these are tough plants. And but keep in mind, every individual plant is an individual, and you could have two plants of the same species right next to each other, and one dies and one doesn't, you know. But I'm also showing how to help a plant recover. We meaning I and my main helper Bob Turner, have planted an enormous number, and I'm talking about 200-300 plants already this year that have been severely damaged and thrown away by many people. I was driving through a trailer park here the other day, and a fellow was working in his yard around his trailer, and I could tell by the way he was working he was going to throw the plants away. So I stopped and said, are you throwing those plants away? He said, I sure am. And so I said, I'd love to give them another home. And so we've done that. I'm now standing in an area of the park that I planted with refugee plants, if you will. Plants that people had thrown away or were in the process of throwing away. They were either tired of them or the plant had been damaged because of the severe winter, and as far as they were concerned were worthy of only throwing away. So I call this area Resurrection Alley. It is where I planted plants behind me. All these brown plants, 90% of them are going to be just fine, and I'll make them beautiful inside of a year or two. Proper location, giving the plant what it needs to survive is what this is all about. We're halfway into the park now. We want you to come all the way into the park. The park has the disadvantage of being very narrow at its entrance, but very long. Most of the Arboretum is in the westerly 2/3 of the park. But right now I'm standing in the midst of our rose garden. We have a pretty large bed here with a whole bunch of different types of roses. Again, it's informal. It is no straight lines, no 5 or 6 of the same kind of plant. Each plant has its own piece of real estate here. This is an example of a new selection of fastigiate or upright columnar trees that have been introduced to the nursery industry. This is a plum. Plums are cherries, of course, in the cherry genus. But as you can see, it is 4 or 5 feet wide at most and is going up. This is a columnar tree where you could use it on the street where you don't have a lot of room. Here is a tree